A continued tropical environment with flow from the Gulf of Mexico. We've got 4,500 scattered cumulus out there. Let's take a look at what the skew-t looks like for this kind of sky. And here we can see a skew-t, which is pretty much valid for that opening clip. One thing that you see here is a definite lack of capping. We also see a lot of moisture in the low levels. And the LFC right about there, it's going to be pretty easy to get cumulus going through that layer right there. But it looks like there is a little bit of warm air in the mid-levels, and that'll keep things, for the most part, suppressed. Due to the depth of this cool layer here, that'll be enough to support some deep convection, maybe some showers and weak thunderstorms here and there. Also, as some of this dry air at about 4,000 to 5,000 works its way down to the surface, we'll see the dew point fall off, the theta E's will drop a little bit, and that'll kind of push the projected parcel temperature closer to the left. Obviously, we're nothing like this, so you definitely want to take these computed parcels with a grain of salt. That's kind of a worst case scenario. Realistically, we're more like maybe something like that right there. And as we entrain more of that dry air, that'll shift a little bit to the left, and then we'll be left basically with no convection, kind of a nice evening, and clear to scattered conditions. So that's how you interpret the skew-t in this kind of environment. With it being early afternoon, we're still a little bit early in the convective day. But this band right here, this is probably going to start generating a few showers and thunderstorms. We have easterly flow, so it'll be moving towards Dallas, Corsicana, Centerville, places like that. And further west, we do have showers going up already in the Wichita Falls to Seymour area. And there's a quick look at the animation. Some elevated convection earlier in the day, and there's probably a little bit of instability in that region. So we'll take a look at the past 24 hours of convection. This is what it looked like yesterday at about 2 p.m. And we had a front somewhere in this area right there, some frontal convection in the Missouri and Kentucky area. More air mass activity all the way from Texas to the Carolinas, and the monsoon active in Arizona. And I think there was some sort of shortwave working through Idaho. And we'll run this forward and see what happened during the day and into the evening. Lots of convection in northern Nevada. So they're really getting hammered. And in the southwest, New Mexico especially, the monsoon in full force. Let's see what happens after dark. Well, a lot of activity shuts down. Look at that. Definitely diurnal. Closer to the front, some showers hanging on with the enhanced upper level flow. Also some convection in the southwest overnight. Monsoon convection does tend to last into the evening, and that's what we're seeing there. And if we look up in the Yellowstone area, looks like there's a short wave kind of traversing that area. You see that right there? Little hook shape kind of moving northeast. Probably got a little upper air energy. Going to be up in Montana this afternoon. And I can see way up in Manitoba, looks like some strong convection. We were kind of looking at that area yesterday, and we'll check it out once again. So that's what's going on, and you can see not a whole lot of activity in the northern plains. The typical MCSs we see this time of year, not very well organized, just a few showers in the Sioux Falls area. And so that means not a whole lot of boundaries to start with, and I think any boundaries are going to be focused mostly out here, but really nothing distinct that we can go by on the synoptic chart. Well, this afternoon, yeah, that monsoon is in full effect in the Four Corners and Arizona. No distinct boundaries really in Texas. Maybe a little bit of residual stuff from that elevated convection this morning. Otherwise, we're just kind of in a tropical flow there, and you can see no evidence of the dry line. I think the dry line has kind of fallen apart, maybe kind of a last remnant somewhere in this area due to the monsoon taking hold in the southwest. Here's what we got going on the surface map. You can see that dry line is in place in eastern Colorado, but the tail end just kind of loses definition because it's moist in New Mexico. 50s and 60s dew points showing up, so that means we are into monsoon season. Out to the west, dew points 65 there at Phoenix. Don't see that very often in the summer, except towards the late part of the season. And as we go west, we get into the drier air, and you can see that 20-degree reading at Tonopah. Up to the north, it looks like a Pacific system has moved into the north part of Nevada, helping to augment the monsoon in that region. And then down in Texas, the moisture is coming right up from the Gulf into North Texas. And you can see the dew points are up from what we had a few days ago. They're up into the mid-70s. And if we draw a quick isodrosotherm, let's do 72. I think that would be a really good one. That goes all the way up into Kansas, up into Nebraska. And then we curve that back along this backdoor front there in Missouri. Little residual moisture along that boundary too, even 78 there around the Carbondale area. And yeah, if we did another isodrosotherm analysis, 75, I think we'd be looking at maybe one there. Yeah, plenty of moisture around the Memphis area. And looks like a few more readings in there. So that's the moisture axis really centered on Arkansas there. So Kansas, Nebraska, they've got a pretty good moisture supply heading up into that area ahead of this next system. Maybe it's good to look at some soundings. Let's do that since we're kind of building this idea of what the atmosphere is doing. And we know that the moisture air is in Arkansas up into Oklahoma. Let's drop a sounding in the Little Rock area. So obviously these are not observed, but the model data, the initialization, the analysis, numerical model analysis, those are getting really good these days. So I'm starting to depend on them a little bit more. So here we can see, yeah, there's some good moisture depth all the way up to about 3,000 feet, and then it does trail off, but the top of the moist layer is up at about maybe 14,000 feet, and above that probably some cirrus and convective debris in that region. Let's take a look to the west let's try El Paso. They're getting that monsoon flow, and you can see 60s dew points trailing off very gradually into 50s at about 3,000 feet off the surface, and then it drops after that. And we find the dry air up at about 25 to 30,000 feet. Let's try Dallas. They're going to be in that tropical return, and you can see, yeah, very good moisture in the lowest 3,000 feet, and still some to be found 50s dew points all the way up to about 15,000, 20,000 feet. And let's try Colorado way up here. Say let's try the La Junta area. And we get more into that inverted V type sounding there. There is some clouds aloft up there based at about 20,000 feet. That's going to be some dense cirrus, maybe some debris from the mountains from convection yesterday. But down below it, plenty of dry air. And obviously, as we get the heating, that's going to mix that layer and keep bringing dry air down to the surface. The northwestern U.S. under the influence of a new frontal system that's moved through that area. You can see some convection back in behind that with cold air aloft. And the moisture from the monsoon still working its way up into the Salt Lake City Wendover area. Surface map. Bear Clinic Low in Montana, right there around, I guess it'd be just south of Glasgow into Miles City. Looks like we got this little warm front there around Bismarck. Very hot temperatures, 88 over 72, and that front trails off into the Kansas City area. Looks like the leading edge of the Pacific air moving through Gillette, approaching Sheridan there, and we've got a dry line triple point near Sheridan, dividing this 49-degree reading from 63 at Rapid City. This could be a potent situation for convection in the Black Hills, if it's not too capped, and then we could see more convection down the dry line. And up in Canada, that system did not quite move east like I thought it might. And the result of that is a lot of moisture infiltrating this region right here. That's going to be a good setup for severe weather because as you go north, you get into stronger winds aloft. And let's just drop a sounding in southeast Saskatchewan and take a look at that. I'm going to go ahead and run this up to evening, and we can see there's some convection developing along the front in western North Dakota. The pre-storm environment, yeah, I guess that's going to be up here. And what we're seeing here is that the moisture is not that great. 64-degree dew points, tapering off into 50s with increasing height, also a very hot environment. That means high LCLs, almost up there at 10,000 feet, high cloud bases, possible outflow dominance. Yeah, look at that decape, 1,400. And the winds aloft are not quite that great, not as much as I figured there would be. So anyway, there you go. That's probably the first Saskatchewan skew-t ever seen on YouTube. So you could probably print that out and hang it on your wall. And yeah, just taking a quick look at that environment up there. Absence of low clouds. I mean, there is a little bit of stable pancaked transverse banding in Manitoba, but we're just kind of devoid of low cloud. That's always a bad sign when you're chasing. Northeast U.S. looking like this. They've had a front move into that area. It is still moist, but at least the temperatures are down into the low 80s. There's the high pressure center in the UP of Michigan. Upper 60s temperatures, very nice in that region, but that's pushing some cool air down into Michigan and the Midwest. The satellite showing that, yeah, there is plenty of residual moisture in the lower levels, but it is northerly flow there coming down out of Canada. And the main frontal boundary is going to be somewhere down in that region. You can see the difference in the air masses, and also a lot of cirrus. You can see these anvils blown off in Massachusetts, New Hampshire. That's indicating fast flow aloft. And then here's how things look in the southeastern U.S. Very typical for this time of year. Looks like another surge of maybe a kind of a combined sea breeze moving north through Georgia there. And we've also got this convective boundary right there in Florida. And yeah, look at that thing surging to the northwest. So storms definitely a possibility through southern Georgia, southern Alabama this afternoon. And also offshore, down here in the Gulf of Mexico, we've got Tropical Depression number 8 coming together. And you can see the cyclonic rotation of the wind field. There's how it looks at the National Hurricane Center. Maximum sustained winds, 30 knots on that, 1008 millibars. That's not very low at all. And the general forecast is to bring that into the Texas coast north of Corpus Christi. And the main problem is going to be heavy rains around, looks like Port Aransas, westward into the Eagle Pass area. And there's the picture for the southeastern U.S. Looks like maybe an easterly wave, maybe moving through Alabama. That's just based on the wind flow from what I'm seeing here. We also do have that outflow surge right there in Florida. I forgot to draw that. And then down to the south, tropical depression number 8 off here. And then down to the south, tropical depression number 8. I had this great idea to fix digital atmosphere to where you can bogus the analysis field with a storm. I'm going to look at doing that because that way we'll really be able to see the storm on these maps. So that's an idea. Maybe tomorrow I'll have that all set up. Just see how much time I have this afternoon. Also, we can see all the moisture, just plentiful moisture through this region right here. So I would expect more of this convective activity to continue through the rest of the week. Back to NHC, we do have Gonzalo off the South American coast. That's still a long ways out. 50 knots there. We're expecting that to come up to hurricane strength here pretty soon. You can see that takes it through the Windward Islands. Let me give you a better map here. Yeah, that's the one I like right there. You can see it intensifying to a hurricane tomorrow morning, crossing around Trinidad out into the Caribbean, the southern Caribbean. That's way south, and then heading westward. So typically this time of year, these things come into Nicaragua, Honduras, Belize. That may be the case with this particular storm. I'm not sure that's going to come up into the Gulf. But, we can reevaluate that on Tuesday's broadcast where it'll be about right there, and we may have some new data to go by. But you can also see that it's weakening. Got that S there, which means tropical storm. So that's probably not going to be much to write home about there. So we've been talking about Comet Neowise for about a couple weeks now. That's a comet that's visible without any telescopes or binoculars. You can go right out and see that. The problem is you're going to need a dark sky. It's not going to work in the city. And also we got this moon coming up. It's a crescent moon. It's going to gradually start interfering more and more with being able to see that comet. Now, how to see it? Look in the northwest with a dark sky. You're going to look at the Big Dipper, which is located right there. And you're going to look at the bottom of the pan that's formed by that constellation. You go down as if it's dripping water, and right around there you're going to find the comet. So that's a great way to locate it. And keep in mind, off to the southeast, you've got Saturn and Jupiter. You're going to want to check that out if you have a pair of binoculars. The Bighorn Mountains. Where are they? Well, the Bighorn Mountains are found in northern Wyoming, right there just west of Sheridan. That's kind of an important range because it's one of the eastern edges of the Rocky Mountains. So when we have these cold air masses come down in Colorado, they're going to bank up to the Front Range and not go any further west. Similar situation in New Mexico with the Sangre de Cristos. And for Wyoming, yeah, it's the Bighorn Mountains that act as a barrier there. That'll do it for this edition of Forecast Lab. If you enjoy this program, it's very important we have your support. So I'm going to put up this link here. This is our Patreon fund for the broadcast, and this will help ensure that we keep putting these out over the weeks and months ahead. We have not had any new support since July 6th, so we're getting into a bit of a drought here. If you enjoy this program and want to keep it going, we do need your support. Alternately, you can head out to weathergraphics.com and pick up a book. Maybe put in the comments that you got the idea from the Forecast Lab production. Anyway, we will see you all again tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.
I've got to salt the meat.
From the back to the front, it makes the taste complete.